Two of the most feared names in rap are one move away from war, and it's not just music anymore. When helicopters start flying over concerts, you know something real is about to go down. They started as brothers, same struggle, same dream. But one move turned friendship into war. And now, Miami's streets are holding their breath to see who strikes first. This ain't a Twitter beef. This is real tension, real streets, real consequences. By the time you finish this story, you'll understand why people are saying, someone might not make it home. Helicopters over Miami. Crews outside the arena. Kodak in the sky, Youngboy on stage, and everyone asking the same question. Is this rap beef, or is this war? It started with a girl, but it's never about the girl. In the streets, it's about pride, and pride kills faster than bullets. This is Kodak versus Youngboy, the calm before the storm. Two of the most feared names in rap might be heading for war, NBA Youngboy and Kodak Black. What started as mutual respect is now turning into a rivalry that feels like it could spill out of music and into something much darker. We're talking helicopters, old relationships, and street politics that have Miami watching closely, because this time, it's more than just a rap beef. This isn't a Twitter argument or a few subliminal posts. The tension feels real. The energy is raw and dangerous. By the time you finish hearing the story, you'll understand why people are saying someone might not make it home. But before we get to the chaos, let's rewind. Because believe it or not, Kodak and Youngboy used to be tight. There was real love between them, not that fake, industry friendship people put on for the cameras. Back when Youngboy was still trying to find his lane, he looked up to Kodak. He studied how Kodak carried himself, unfiltered, fearless, and never selling out for mainstream fame. Kodak was proof that you could stay true to your roots and still blow up. In old interviews, you could hear the admiration in Youngboy's voice when he talked about Kodak. It wasn't just casual respect, it was something deeper. Almost like he saw Kodak as a blueprint, a living example of what was possible when you turned pain into purpose. Both of them came from the same kind of world, where survival came before dreams, and the streets were both teacher and trap. Poverty, violence, constant run-ins with the law, they weren't just lyrics in their songs. They were real-life experiences that shaped how they thought, moved, and trusted people. For a long time, that shared background created a bond between them. Kodak saw some of himself in Youngboy, a kid from nothing, fighting for everything. And Youngboy, in return, seemed to study Kodak's moves. The independence, the raw storytelling, the way Kodak stood on business without ever needing approval from the industry. It was like watching an older version of himself move through the same fire he was walking into. They weren't just artists in the same lane, they were mirrors of each other's struggle. Two young men fighting demons, chasing respect, and trying to prove that pain could be profitable. But that's the thing about mirrors. Eventually, reflections start to clash. At first, it was all love, collaborations, shoutouts, and mutual support. They were part of the same wave, representing the same side of hip-hop, raw, unfiltered, unapologetic. But somewhere along the way, ego and pride crept in, two forces that have ended more friendships in this game than bullets ever could. It started small, like most beefs do. A line here, a post there. Misunderstandings mixed with public pressure. Then came the Mellow Rack situation, and everything changed. For Kodak, that move wasn't just disrespectful, it felt personal. Mello had ties to him, and when Youngboy got involved, it crossed a boundary Kodak thought was understood. In the streets, that kind of violation doesn't go unnoticed. It's not about the girl, it's about principle. About how far someone's willing to go to test your name. From that moment on, things were never the same. The friendship turned into tension, and the tension turned into silence. Neither one wanted to look weak. Neither wanted to back down. And because both had come from environments where backing down could get you hurt, that pride ran deep. You could see it in their moves, subtle shots in lyrics, cryptic posts, cold shoulders in interviews. What used to be admiration had turned into quiet competition. Still, the streets kept watching. Fans speculated. Blogs posted every small gesture like it was proof of something bigger. And that's when the situation began to grow beyond just two rappers with issues. It became symbolic, two leaders of the new generation standing on opposite sides of a line neither one wanted to cross, but both kept inching toward. Kodak's recent stunt in Miami showed just how far things had gone. That wasn't a moment of random flexing, it was calculated, deliberate, and emotional. It was him saying, "I'm still here, and I run this city." The yachts, the lights, the music blasting across the bay, it all carried a message that words couldn't. He didn't need to step inside the arena to make his point. He made the city his stage. And Youngboy, performing right there in Kodak's backyard, couldn't ignore it. It was hip-hop theater, but with real stakes. Because when pride and proximity mix, it rarely stays just entertainment. That's what makes this so dangerous. Both Kodak and Youngboy aren't just industry figures. They have roots, people, and entire communities that stand behind them. When one moves, the other reacts. When one speaks, 1,000 others take it personally. And deep down, both of them know the truth. They understand each other because they are each other. That's why it cuts so deep. Kodak once said in an old clip, "I see a lot of myself in that little dude." And Youngboy once called Kodak one of the realest to ever do it. Those weren't empty words, they came from a place of genuine respect. But in hip-hop, respect can turn to rivalry fast, especially when success, pride, and street loyalty get tangled up together. The sad part is, both of them are fighting battles bigger than each other, battles with the system, with their environments, and sometimes with themselves. They've both made it further than most expected. Yet here they are, standing on the edge of a feud that could erase everything they built. It's tragic when two people who understand the same pain end up causing it for one another. Because at their core, Kodak and Youngboy are products of the same storm, and instead of sheltering from it together, they're letting it pull them apart. Maybe one day they'll look back and realize the real enemy was never each other. It was the pride, the pressure, and the people who kept cheering for war instead of peace. But for now, the tension continues to build, and the story of two reflections that once admired each other has turned into one of hip-hop's most unpredictable rivalries. When they finally made music together, the chemistry was undeniable. The streets could feel it, two artists cut from the same cloth, both real, both raw, both determined to never fold. But over time, that brotherhood started to crack. What began as respect slowly turned into rivalry. As their fame grew, so did their egos and the unspoken tension between them. Little things started to pile up. Misunderstandings, street politics, people around them choosing sides. It was like watching a storm form in slow motion. At first, nobody thought it was serious. But inside both camps, whispers started spreading. Crews were talking, lines were being drawn, and the peace that once existed began to fade. What made it worse was that both men had real street reputations and people around them ready to go to war if needed. This wasn't just about rap. It was personal. Then came a moment everyone thought would change things for the better, a FaceTime call between Kodak and Youngboy. The video showed them laughing, joking, showing love like old times. Fans thought, finally, they're squashing the beef. It was a rare moment of peace that gave hope to everyone watching. For a short while, it worked. The air cooled down. Both sides relaxed. Even the fans felt like maybe, just maybe, maturity had won. But peace doesn't last long in this game, and what happened next reignited everything. Here's where it all blew up again, the mellow rack situation. Youngboy made a move that crossed a line Kodak couldn't ignore. Now, in street culture, that's not just a love triangle, it's a statement. It's a direct hit to someone's pride. Messing with a friend's ex is already crossing the line. Doing it publicly, and then using your platform to promote her, turns it into full-blown disrespect. To Kodak, that wasn't just about a woman. That was about loyalty, respect, and principle. Youngboy's move sent a message loud and clear. Whatever they once had, it's over. And that's why the streets are watching closely. Because this isn't just a rap feud anymore. It's personal, it's emotional, and it's dangerous. The psychology behind Youngboy's move is complicated. Maybe he wanted to see how Kodak would react. Maybe he really liked mellow racks and didn't care about the drama it would cause. Or maybe it was about power, a way of showing who's really in control. Whatever his reason, he had to know that move would light the fuse all over again. And it did. From the way Kodak responded, it was clear this cut deep. This wasn't about a girl anymore. It was about respect, boundaries, and a code that should have never been broken between old friends. Kodak didn't waste time getting even. Instead of keeping it private, he went public and he went hard. He fired back with diss tracks and wild messages, calling Youngboy out directly. He made it clear the peace they once had was dead and gone. According to sources, Kodak said some things that left no room for doubt, words dripping with anger and betrayal. You could feel how personal it had become. This wasn't rap beef anymore. This was real emotion, real resentment. The kind of disrespect that eats at you from the inside. When someone you once respected crosses you in front of the world, that pain hits different. It's not jealousy, it's betrayal. And Kodak's reaction showed just how deep that wound went. But that was only the beginning. Things reached a whole new level when Youngboy announced a show in Miami, Kodak's own city. That's when Kodak decided to send a message no one could ignore. Instead of hiding behind words, he pulled a stunt that felt straight out of a movie. On the night of Youngboy's concert, October 14, 2025, the skies above Miami started to rumble. Fans were flooding the streets outside the Casilla Center, waiting for YB's first Miami performance in 5 years. The energy was electric. But then, the sound of rotor blades cut through the air. A black helicopter appeared over Biscayne Bay, its lights slicing through the Miami haze. Cameras went up. People started recording. And then the door opened. It was Kodak Black. Dressed in all black, diamond grille flashing, standing in the doorway like he owned the night. Dangling behind him was a massive banner that read, "Just getting started." October 31st. In one move, Kodak hijacked his rival's concert, turning it into a promo for his own upcoming album. It wasn't luck. It was strategy. Chess, not checkers. Down below, the streets turned chaotic. Fans heading to Youngboy's show suddenly found themselves surrounded by people waving Sniper Gang posters and neon signs advertising Kodak's album. It looked too coordinated to be random, and it was. Word spread that Kodak had paid local promoters and street teams to flood the area, handing out flyers, blasting his music, and chanting Team Kodak through megaphones. It was mind games at their finest, a flex of power, money, and influence. Imagine walking into your favorite rapper's concert and seeing hundreds of people repping his rival. It felt like a real-life rap movie. As the crowd split between confusion and excitement, the helicopter kept circling overhead. Fans could see it from the streets, from rooftops, even from the upper decks of the arena. Lights flashing, blades chopping the air, the banner glowing like a trophy in the sky. And then came the moment Miami will never forget. The helicopter dipped low over Biscayne Bay, skimming the water behind the arena. The reflection of its spinning blades danced across the surface, a sight straight out of a blockbuster. That was Kodak's way of saying, "I'm still here. And I'm just getting started." The water lit up like a scene from a movie. Kodak's crew didn't just pull up, they arrived. Black yachts and speedboats glided through Biscayne Bay, decked out with glowing LED lights and blasting "No Flockin'" at full volume. You could feel the bass thumping across the water. His team, all dressed in Sniper Gang gear, waved flags, threw up signs, and laughed like they'd just pulled off the greatest stunt Miami had ever seen. For a few moments, the entire waterfront behind the arena belonged to Kodak Black. He didn't need a stage. Miami was his stage. And this wasn't random. This was chess. Kodak knew exactly what he was doing and when to do it. Youngboy's fans were flooding into the arena, cameras in hand, the streets packed wall to wall. Kodak made sure that before they even scanned their tickets, they saw his message loud, clear, and impossible to ignore. On social media, people couldn't stop talking about it. Some said it felt like a protest, but instead of politics, it was pure hip-hop pride. Crowds outside chanted, "Sniper Gang. Sniper Gang," while fans in YB shirts walked past, shaking their heads or pulling out their phones to record. Even those who didn't rock with Kodak had to admit, this was wild, bold, and straight up Miami. By the time Youngboy hit the stage, the internet was already exploding. Helicopter clips, boat footage, fans yelling Kodak's name. Every blog had it posted within minutes. The reaction was split. Half the internet called Kodak a genius. The other half said he looked desperate. But one truth couldn't be denied. He stole the spotlight. And the craziest part? He didn't break a single law. Loud? Definitely. Reckless? Absolutely. Illegal? Not even close. Miami PD had their eyes on everything, but they couldn't do much. Kodak had his paperwork tight, flight permits, registered watercraft, and paid event promoters handling the street teams. Every part of that night was planned weeks in advance. It wasn't chaos. It was choreography. By midnight, the whole city was buzzing. People leaving Youngboy's concert looked across the bay and saw yachts glowing in the dark, Kodak's voice echoing through the humid night air. It's a dangerous cycle. The truth is, both of these men are insanely talented. They've inspired millions, changed lives, and built empires from nothing. But instead of celebrating their success, they're stuck in a battle that could ruin everything they've worked for, maybe even cost them their freedom or their lives. The psychology of pride and reputation. In this world, pride is everything. Reputation is currency. Respect keeps you alive. When someone takes that from you, especially in public, it triggers something deep. The need to prove yourself. The need to remind everyone who you are. That's what's driving this whole situation. Not money. Not music. just pride. And pride, once it takes over, doesn't care about consequences. What makes this whole situation even more dangerous is that neither artist can back down. They've got too much pride, too many people watching, and too much reputation on the line. Backing down now would look like weakness, and in their world, weakness is deadly. So they're stuck, caught in a cycle of tension that keeps growing. Social media is adding fuel, the streets are watching, and their fans expect action. Every post, every lyric, every move just adds more pressure. Then came the helicopter incident in Miami, the moment everything changed. That's when people realized this wasn't just music anymore. When someone's willing to pull up to your show with a helicopter and a crew, that's not entertainment, that's a message. That's war talk. And hip-hop wars don't end with handshakes and apologies. They end with headlines, heartbreak, and sometimes funerals. Older heads in the city even compared Kodak's move to some of the most iconic disrespect moments in hip-hop history. Like when 50 Cent bought out the front rows of Ja Rule's concert. Or when Gucci Mane dropped a diss track right after getting out of jail. It had that same mix of disrespect, confidence, and hustle, the kind of moment that reminds everyone, in this game, it's not always about who's the best rapper. It's about who can make the biggest moment. But here's the truth, this beef is following the same pattern that's led to tragedy in hip-hop before. First comes personal disrespect, then public escalation, then the mind games and pressure to prove who's really about that life. That's the same formula that's ended careers and lives. Both Kodak and Youngboy have been through real street wars before. They're not rappers pretending to be tough, they've actually survived it. And that's what makes this so risky. Because when you've already lived through violence, it's easier to go there again. It feels familiar. It feels like home. The sad part? This never had to happen. If Youngboy had just respected the lines from their past friendship, the Mellow Racks situation might have never reignited all this. But now, both of them are locked into a story that could destroy their careers, or worse. By sunrise, the scene outside the arena looked like a movie set. Torn posters, crumpled flyers that said, "Just getting started," empty bottles and broken wristbands scattered across the pavement. But the real question isn't about last night. It's about what happens next. Because right now, the choice is still theirs. It's not too late for both Kodak and Youngboy to step back before this turns into something nobody can undo. They've got too much talent, too much money, and too many people depending on them to let ego destroy everything they've built. Hip-hop doesn't need another tragedy. We don't need more violence for entertainment. We need artists who show that real strength isn't in throwing punches, it's in walking away when you could have done worse. Both Kodak and Youngboy have the power to flip the story, to prove that protecting your life and legacy means more than protecting your pride. But they have to make that choice before it's too late. The streets are watching. The culture is watching. And what happens next could shape how hip-hop handles beef for years to come. So what do you think? Should they squash it before it goes too far? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and follow for more deep dives into hip-hop culture and street politics. And remember, real strength isn't about fighting. It's about knowing when not to. But sometimes, the streets don't give you that choice. No cap.